One other guy, you mentioned there's skillful fighters out there. One guy that I do think is skillful, Terence Crawford. Obviously he had
Terence Crawford, obviously he had the Terence Crawford has been underrated all his life, even to the point of his boxing skill and power. Over and over again the world champion from Omaha has tried to prove himself to the boxing world, especially with his 9th round knockout win over Errol Spence Jr., but surprisingly even Floyd Mayweather doesn't have a full idea of Terence Crawford's greatness until now, after a training session with him.
The Terence Crawford position, is it time for him to move up?
Wait. I think when he was like, I really super.
The pair trained as Terence Crawford prepared to face Canelo Alvarez, after which they both engaged in a sparring session where Terence Crawford dominated Floyd Mayweather and hurt him with his skill and punch power. The sparring was a shocking revelation to Floyd Mayweather, who had no choice but to admit Terence Crawford's prowess.
And I'm gonna tell y'all the truth about Canelo. Easy, man. Cakewalk. Easy. Y'all sitting up here, y'all praising this dude. This dude was nothing. I was almost 40 years old when I cooked this dude.
Terence Crawford decided to involve Floyd Mayweather in his preparation for his fight against Canelo Alvarez later this year, and the undefeated boxing legend was nothing short of impressed on seeing how improved Terence Crawford was. Floyd Mayweather had no doubts that Canelo would be put to sleep when the fight comes. Adding to his already perfect skill set, Floyd Mayweather taught Crawford some defensive techniques to avoid being hit by the bigger. Man, the shoulder roll was one of them, while he also demonstrated some footworks for Crawford to imitate. It's interesting to see that Crawford is prepared for both Canelo's attack and defense, whichever style he brings. The undefeated pound-for-pound king believes he would be able to do some damage on Canelo. Talking after the training, Floyd Mayweather brought back talks of his fight against Canelo Alvarez many years ago and claimed he sees so many similarities between himself then and Terence Crawford, now implying that the result won't be any different than what it was 12 years ago. Mayweather fought Canelo in a World Boxing Council and World Boxing Association light middleweight showdown in September 2013. It was the 45th contest of the American's glittering career, coming up against the young Mexican who was facing his toughest challenge to date. It was seen as a tough test for Mayweather heading in, but it turned out to be a one-sided affair, as the American claimed the victory on points, even if the scorecards had it much closer than most boxing fans.
When I fought Canelo, I was 36, and Canelo was 23, around the same age. Some of these guys.
Money dominated the fight throughout, using his skills and expertise to outclass Canelo over 12 rounds to claim a majority decision victory. Despite being the clear winner at the end of the contest, Judge C.J. Ross scored at 114-114, which baffled many of those in attendance, including Mayweather. Speaking to Fight Hype, the 47-year-old did not hold back when talking about Canelo's boxing ability, initially summing up in 3 words how the fight when he was nothing. Mayweather then explained further what he thinks of the Mexican's ability. You can take a guy like Canelo. I'll tell the truth about Canelo. The idiot was easy, a cakewalk, easier, all praising this dude. He was nothing. I was almost 40 and I cooked this dude.
It's really that they don't want, it's not that they don't want to see Tank win because they feel like it's beating me because I dominated the fight game for so long. But these same writers out here, they praise Canelo. He can pick and choose who he want to fight.
Mayweather retired just a few years later, but over a decade on, Canelo remains one of the biggest names in boxing, securing world titles at middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavyweight, and even becoming undisputed in the 168 pounds weight class after tasting defeat for the first time against Mayweather. Canelo went on to win his next 15 fights, winning world titles at middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavy. In the process, he now looks set to take part in another huge boxing clash, with a clash against fellow pound-for-pound great Crawford, believed to be agreed for later in the year.
World titles and was undisputed champion. I think, the Tank age, the young low champions.
Mm-hmm. Some observers believe the weight difference could be too much for Crawford, who would be jumping up from 154 pounds to 168 pounds for the fight, having only competed once in the super welterweight division. Due to Canelo being a naturally much bigger man than Crawford, many feel that it could result in a big knockout win for the Mexican, similar to when he took on a much smaller opponent in Khan, who had also moved up 2 divisions for the fight. With that in mind, Mayweather gave his verdict on what he thought of Canelo's power following their fight after he was asked if it concerned him heading into the bout. Not at all.
Canelo was 23 with 43 fights and 30 knockouts. And the world said he was inexperienced. I was 36.
He then said in the ring it was nothing he hadn't felt before. It's nothing I never felt before after being in the sport for over 20 years. Mayweather's comments may give Crawford confidence, especially with Canelo failing to stop his last 5 opponents. The 34-year-old from Guadalajara, Mexico currently holds the Unified World Boxing Council, World Boxing Association and World Boxing Organization titles at 168 PBS as he looks set to defend his crown against fellow pound-for-pound superstar Terence Bud Crawford later this year in what could be one of the biggest fights in the long history of boxing. Canelo's only other career defeat came in 2022 when he was beaten comprehensively by the former WBA light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol with
40-something fights. And to tell you the truth, I was over the hill. And so when I fight guys, when I'm in my 30s,
was even more interesting was that after Mayweather and Crawford met, Eddie Hearn was also at the training camp to support Shakur Stevenson. Hence it was becoming a small meeting of the biggest names in boxing. They say that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but in the times we live in and with so many witnesses to what happens, especially if celebrities are present, it is difficult to keep it secret. And if you add to that equation the name of Floyd Mayweather, it is impossible to hide it. It turns out that a recent meeting between Money and the famous promoter Eddie Hearn in a gym in Sin City sparked sparks, and although the whole moment was wrapped in jocular comments, this does not mean that they were not throwing each other.
I'm gonna tell you why I like Eddie. So one day somebody, because you know I don't have social media on my phone. Yeah. So they showed me Eddie. Eddie was like, Floyd Mayweather ain't got no money. That's